It's good.
Hello, hello. So you're on with Elizabeth Wallace and Kimberly Dodd Little, from Grief to Joy. So Kim, I want to say thank you, thank you, thank you for being on today. You are my very
You're welcome.
special guest. And I want us to be very comfortable because this forum, this platform is just you and I in my living room. I've given you your beverage of choice. And so you and I are just going to be talking. I want you to feel free to share as much as you want, as little as you like. But all in all, I want people to hear how impactful life has been for you, what it's been like, and what you want the world to know. Okay?
Okay.
Okay. So, how are you? How are you doing?
I am doing okay. That's I say okay because that's the easiest word to use.
Mhm. I completely identify with that. But how are you really?
Oh, that's such a loaded question. Um, there's moments.
Hmm.
There's just moments. Um, and in the past 2 years and couple of months, it's been a series of moments to just kind of work your way through them. Um, and they change
Hmm.
often.
Hmm. Yeah.
So, um, I mean, right now I'm okay, you know.
Hmm.
In 10 minutes from now, that may not be the case.
I,
But I mean, the the whole idea that there is a process to grief, like it's something that you complete is such a misnomer.
yes.
That's inaccurate. Maybe it applies when you lose a beloved family pet
Mm.
or a great uncle or something like that. But when you lose a child, all the rules go out the window. And I read something recently that said grief remains as long as love does, and the love between a mother and child is forever. So, you
So
know,
grief is forever. Essentially, grief is for the rest of our lives. So,
yes, absolutely.
so Kim, I don't think people know your story. They don't know what happened and they don't know what loved one. I think they can defer that it's a child. Do you mind sharing your story?
No, I don't mind. So on March 11, 2021, my son Christian sent me a text at 12:20 in the afternoon that said, "Help me please, left with Derek policy." And I was like, "Policy? That's so weird." I'm like, "Wait, he knows somebody named Derek Polite. That's got to be what he meant. He must have did voice to text or something." And so I didn't see that text right away. My phone was in my pocket. I was at work and I sat down to do some paperwork in the office, pulled my phone out, saw that I had a missed message from him. So I pulled it up and saw it. And I was like, it's really weird. So I messaged him back, "What? Question mark?" And I didn't get anything. I waited like 10 minutes and I didn't get anything back. And I'm like, "Dude, question mark, question mark." And I still didn't get anything. I was like, "Oh, that's weird. That's really weird." So I called my youngest son, who happened to be at home that day, and I said, "Go to your brother's apartment." I said, "I need you to check on him." I said, "He sent me a really weird text, and I need you to go check on him and see what's going on." So he's like, "Right now?" And I'm like, "Yeah, right now. I got a weird feeling." He's like, "All right." So he got up, he got dressed, and he went over there to check on him. And he's banging on his windows and his doors, and he's not getting an answer. And he messages me, he's like, "Mom, I'm not getting an answer." And I'm like, "Well, go down to the apartment office and see if they'll give you a key or let you in." So he goes down there and they wouldn't let him have a key. Um, but they told him that if he was concerned, he could call the police and do a well check, and that they could get the maintenance people to let them in. So I said, yeah, do that right now. He goes, do you really think we need the police? I said, yeah. I said, I got a weird feeling. I said, something's not right. I said, go ahead and call the police. So he called the local police, and they came out and they were able to walk through, and nothing was disturbed. Nothing was out of order. Christian's laundry was on the couch that he was obviously going to fold later that day. But there was no signs of anything weird or off in his apartment, but he wasn't there. And the police were like, well, he's grown. He could be anywhere. He could be doing his own thing. We're going to say that since there's no active signs of a disturbance here, that, we'll let you know if we run into him or whatever. And they told Jace all this. And I said, no. I said, we need to look for him right now. I said, something's wrong. And I said, tell the cop about the text. So I said, and I forwarded it to him so he could show the police officer, and he did. And the police officer was like, And I said, tell him he knows a guy named Derek Polite. And so they said, well, they would start looking for Derek. They would, check Derek's last known address to see if Christian was there. Meanwhile, I started reaching out to people who had, who were Facebook friends with Derek, who I also knew, because we had mutual Facebook friends. I'm like, anybody know where this guy lives? And one person got back to me and said, yeah, I know where he lives. So I called the police back and I said, hey, somebody's telling me he lives out at this lake. And so they went out there, but Derek wasn't out there. Meanwhile, I've told my bosses, I have to leave work. There's something going on. I don't know what's wrong, but there's something going on with my kid and I need to go. So I lived an hour away from where I worked. So I'm driving it was pouring rain. It was raining cats and dogs. We had floods that day, flash flooding. There was so much rain. And I'm on the phone with cops. I'm on the phone with my brother. I'm on the phone with my son, with my youngest son. I'm talking to all these people while I'm hauling butt home. And I tell my youngest where I'm going to meet him so that we can go, because I was going to head out to this lake area where this guy lived. But I mean, it's not like I knew his exact house, but I'm like, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to see if I can figure this out, because I got to know what's going on. So I grab my son from town. We head out to out in the woods, out to this place. And lo and behold, just as we're driving up the road, Derek is pulling in his driveway. And I was like, that's his truck. I recognize this truck. So I pulled in right behind him, and I'm on the phone with the actual police when I said, hey, he's here. He's at his house. I'm literally behind him. I just pulled up in his driveway. And he said, can I talk to him? The officer did. And I was like, yeah, you can talk to him. So I walked up to Derek's door, and he's like, come on in. And he's changing shoes and stuff. He goes, oh, and in the middle of all this, Derek had made a post on Christian's Facebook page saying, Chris wandered off in the woods out in Richwoods. I've been looking for him for 2 hours with no success. I'm getting ready to head back out to look for him some more. If anybody sees him, call me. And he put his phone number. But he didn't put that on his page, and he didn't put that on a public page. He put it on Christian's page, which was private. So I think it was my stepdaughter who saw that and told me, hey, look at this post he made. Or it might have been a friend of Christian's that saw it. But anyway, so I told the cop about that. Well, anyways, he got Derek on the phone. Derek said, yeah, I took him out to Richwoods. He got all weird and took off into these woods, and I haven't been able to find him. So I got the phone back from the cop. And I said, well, I'm heading out to Richwoods. And he goes, well, when you get there, he goes, you stop at the road. He goes, don't go trespassing on anybody's private property. He goes, we have pinged his phone, and it is pinging to Richwoods. So that's confirmed now, since Derek said, yeah, that's where he was. And he gave me the address, the name of the road to go to look for Christian. So Jason and I go heading out there. Well, we have to go back past my house to go out there. So we stopped and we changed shoes and we grabbed jackets and flashlights, because we didn't know if we were going to be in the woods searching for a while. So we wanted to make sure we were attired appropriately to get out there. So we're throwing all this stuff on, grabbing flashlights and everything. We get in the car, we head down, get on the little highway, and as we're turning to get on the other highway, we get right behind Derek again, and we're able to follow him all the way to the place. So I don't even know if we would have found it if that hadn't happened, but to me, that was Christian leading me. Yeah. Like in my mind, I know that was Christian leading me the whole way. So as we get out there, Derek turns into this driveway at this house, and I go straight a little bit because I see a cop car, and I pull up behind the cop car. And Jason and I jump out of the vehicle, and we cross the road. And as we start to take a couple steps like towards these woods, we see these two cops coming towards us. So we start walking toward them. And I say, well, I don't see Christian Hildebrandt with you, so I guess you haven't found him yet. And this one cop looks at me real funny, and he says, well, who are you? I'm like, well, I'm Christian's mom. I'm the one that called you guys, you know? And he looked at my younger son and he goes, and you are? And Jason's like, I'm his brother. I'm the one that met the cop at his apartment. Like, we're his family. What's up? And this cop looked at me. Yeah, we found him. He's deceased. That was how I got told that my son was no longer here.
I'm so sorry, Mama.
And
so sorry.
That cop had literally no remorse, no sympathy, empathy, nothing. Mm-hmm. Nothing. He just didn't care. And as you can imagine, I was quite shocked. Mm-hmm. My younger son started screaming. My legs went out from under me. I couldn't feel anything. I did not know how to react to that. The other officer helped me stand up, and all I could think of was I needed to get to my baby. They mm-hmm. had to have been wrong. And since I used to be a paramedic, I thought I can fix it. I can make him better. Just, I got to get to him. Mm-hmm. So I started to try to go past them, and they grabbed me, and they're like, you can't go down there. You can't interfere with the scene. I was like, scene, crime scene. Mm-hmm. Someone hurt my baby. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, Derek. Mm-hmm. So I turned around to go up to confront him, and they grabbed me, and they're like, no, we can't let you do that. And the one officer, he's like, let's get you out of this rain. So they walked me up to my vehicle, and they put me and my son in my vehicle. And he said, do you need to call somebody? And I was like, well, yeah. And he goes, okay, just stay here. He goes, call whoever you need to call. He goes, I'm going to figure out what you need to do. And I called my brother. I called my husband. I called my best friend. I was like, I just kept hearing myself say, you know, they found Christian's body in the woods. And I was like, who am I talking about? Because that was so unrealistic to me. Mm-hmm. Because that doesn't happen to people you know. Right. That happens to other people. Correct. You know? Correct. Like, people in your family don't just get murdered. Like, that's not a thing. That's a movie. That's, you know, something mm-hmm. you hear about on the news. That's not a real thing that happens. Right. So we sat there, and I don't even know how long, but then the officer comes back and he says, there's going to be a lot of people and a lot of vehicles coming out here. We've got, you know, the crime scene task force, the coroner, you know, all of the sheriff's office, you know, we're going to have a lot of people out here. There's not going to be room for your vehicle. You should go wait for us at the sheriff's department.
Mm.
And I'm like, you want me to go to the sheriff's department? He goes, yeah. He goes, go wait for us there. Somebody will come talk to you. And I don't know. Again, I have no idea why they let me drive. I don't know how I made it there. I know it's a good thing that my youngest son was with me, or I probably wouldn't have. I sat in the rain in the parking lot at the sheriff's office for over 2 hours with no contact from anybody. And I finally couldn't sit there in the rain anymore because I had this weird thought that just kept flooding through my head. And I could not sit out there in the rain thinking about, because I could see the rain, and all I could think was my baby is laying there in the rain, getting rained on. And I couldn't handle it anymore. So I went home. But I had called my cousin and she came down. She dropped everything and drove down and sat with me and helped me make phone calls to people to tell them what had happened. And I don't think I really felt much of anything that night. I was just so numb. I look back on it and it's so surreal, that even happened. And there's some days where I get right back in that same exact headspace, where I'm just sitting here. I'll wake up one morning and just be like, how is this my life? Like, how is this real? This doesn't feel real. But every day that goes by that he hasn't texted me 100 times or sent me a song that he found or sent me a joke or talked about going to see a movie or asked me to go get him Taco Bell, those things make it real.
Right.
Um, so what happened was that Christian knew this man, Derek. He used to be his neighbor in the apartments that he lived in. He lived in low income housing. He was on disability for bipolar disorder. Um, he was in therapy and had a really good clubhouse thing that he went to, a support therapy thing, and he had, you know, personal aids and things like that. But he lived on his own, and he did really well. Um, but he knew this man Derek from the apartments, and he thought they were friends. The guy had taught him how to play disc golf. And I even met the guy before. He was older, but I mean, he didn't seem like. I mean, I don't know. He just seemed like a guy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but apparently, and this has come out afterwards, that him and Christian had gotten into some big argument over something a few months before Christian's death, and apparently it was pretty bad. Christian never told me about it. Um, but Christian always forgave everybody. He could get in a giant fight with somebody, and the next day he'd be like, "We're good." I mean, he just forgave everybody. That's always how he was. He could literally have a fist fight with somebody in the front yard, and 2 days later he'd be their best friend again. That was just him. He never held grudges. It wasn't in his heart to do so.
Wow.
Um, so when Derek called him up, I guess either that morning or the night before, and said, "Hey, man, you want to help me move this washer and dryer? There's $30 in it for you." Christian's like, "Sure, man, I'll help you." And Derek knew Christian long enough to know that about him. You know what I'm saying? Like, they'd talked enough while they were playing disc golf that he knew that he could lure Christian out there. The prosecuting attorney fully believes that this man picked my son up that day with the intention of taking him out there to kill him. Like, that was the plan the whole time. So it was very much first degree premeditated murder. Um, but it took 11 weeks to get a phone call back from the sheriff regarding my son's case. They wouldn't send off evidence. They wouldn't properly investigate. Derek and his buddy gave them this story about Christian smoking concentrated THC and then throwing up and then running out in the woods by himself. So they were trying to say it was suicide, which was incredibly ridiculous because of how my son died. And I don't want to upset your listeners, so I'm not going to go into graphic details. But the point is, it is almost physically impossible for my son to have taken his own life. And the only knife, he was killed with a knife, the only knife found at the scene was my son's pocket knife. And it was found 11 feet from his head. And it had no blood or DNA on it. So it's impossible that that knife was used to kill him, because his DNA and his own blood would have been all over the knife.
Right.
And the detective was like, well, it didn't have fingerprints on it because it was out there in the rain. Bro, that's not how fingerprints work. I'm like, I don't know who you think you're talking to, but I actually have a degree in criminal justice, and that's not how fingerprints work. So, but it took 11 weeks to get a call back from the sheriff. I demanded that the detective that was not doing his job and that talked to me so horribly be fired. And I mean, there was, I could go into more. The man actually laughed at me the day that I went to pick up my son's phone from him, literally laughed in my face when I said, I can't believe you still aren't investigating this. Why have you not brought Derek in for questioning? Well, you're assuming that he did something. I said, and you're assuming that he didn't. And he goes, yeah. I mean, literally laughed in my face. When I was 3 weeks after my son died, I had already, before Christian died, had planned on going to North Carolina for the birth of my niece. And when I was down there, this guy was playing with my son's phone at his office and actually sent me a smiley face from my son's phone. I'm driving and this message from Christian pops up on my phone. I almost wrecked the car.
Right.
So after I finally got the sheriff on the phone, I demanded this guy be fired from my son's case. I'm like, I want him off the case. This guy he doesn't care, and I don't want him working the case. So it took weeks before he even assigned a new detective. So it just sat there, nothing getting done. And it ended up taking a total of 7 months before they called in the Missouri State Highway Patrol to investigate my son's murder as a homicide. And that was only because I got Chris Hayes from Fox 2 Investigative News to come in and do a story. I wrote to him. I told him what was going on. I invited him to look at the Facebook page. I gave him all the evidence that, that I knew that they had. I gave him all the information. I told him what had been going on. And he was like, this is ridiculous. And he tried for like 2 weeks to get a hold of the sheriff, and the sheriff wouldn't return any calls. So he finally said, look, I'm coming down there. I'm going to do the story. Quote, I get a quote from you or not, I'm still covering this. So you have, an opportunity to try to, let the people see your side, but this is what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. And literally the next morning after Chris made that phone call, the sheriff called in the highway patrol, and I got a phone call 10 minutes before the interview with Chris from the highway patrol officer asking him if I could bring him Christian's phone so he could do a forensic data retrieval on it. So now, once the highway patrol got involved, it only took the officer 3 months to put together a solid murder case and get a warrant issued. So if they had been doing their job from the beginning, the guy would have been in jail a lot longer. But it took 10 months before that man ended up behind bars. He walked around free. He went to Michigan to visit family twice. He did whatever he wanted after he killed my kid with no consequences for 10 months. But luckily, he's been in on $1 million bond since January 2022. Trial was supposed to be in January of this year, but in November of last year, Washington County elected a new prosecutor who had no criminal case experience, no criminal trial experience. They voted for a brand new guy who just moved here from Virginia and has literally never done a criminal case, much less a murder case. So the judge was like, nope, we're not having that. So the judge canceled the trial, and we got a new assistant prosecutor assigned from the state's attorney's office to take over my son's case. And trial has now been set for September. So
we're definitely going to be praying that justice is done in that trial in September. We're also going to be praying for you and your son's support, because it's like you're going to be living this. I know you're telling the story, but in that courtroom, you're going to actually be living it all over again. That night,
I know.
praying. And so we're going to be with you. Physically, we may not be able to be in the courtroom, but in spirit, and I'm going to make sure you let me know the date. I will keep the audience aware, so all the mothers can come together and pray for your support and make
That
sure.
would be awesome.
Absolutely. That's what we're here for. I mean, your mom that has lost her baby, your firstborn son, and that's hard. I know that's extremely hard. So I know the series is From Grief to Joy, and 2 years is a long time to have someone say, well, are you at joy yet? I know the answer is no. I know the answer is no.
But
But
I have at least found moments of, which I would have thought was unfathomable a week after, 2 weeks after, 3 months after. So there's never a normal again, or at least there's a new normal. But like watching my baby boy graduate college 2 weeks ago,
awesome.
that was pure joy.
Yes.
That was absolute pure joy, watching him go up there and get that diploma. But it's always a little bittersweet. I had this special charm made with a picture of Christian on it, and a little tag that said, "You did it, little bro," so he could walk with his brother.
Right.
So it was joy, but then there's always that little thing, that little bitty thing that's kind of right there, that's like, yes, this is a moment of joy, but understand it came at a price.
Right. Bittersweet, right?
Right.
Sweet.
Right.
And
I feel like that's going to be the rest of forever. Like, I think that is part of the new normal. There is joy. There will be moments of joy, but there will always be that thing right there that reminds you that he should still be here to celebrate it too.
Yes. Yes. Especially when they were taken unwillingly, and in this case, inexcusably. There's no reason rhyme that Derek should have, allegedly took your son. There's no reason for that. And Christian life was gone way too soon. May I ask how old he was?
28.
28 years old. Still a babe, really, still a babe. Yep. Haven't yet to become and do what he wants to do, to understand where he wants to be as far as life is concerned. Still in the process of figuring it out.
He was actually, and we were actually making some really big plans for him. So he was obsessed with horror movies and all the special effects. Okay. I'm getting a whole arm sleeve full of tattoos. That's all a bunch of stuff, that all of his favorite things.
Okay.
And it's mostly going to be horror movies. But he was absolutely obsessed. He used to play around trying to do horror makeup on himself, and he got to be an extra in a local movie made by a guy that was about zombies, and that was like his favorite thing that he got to do. There's a little trailer on YouTube, and it's actually on his page, where he got to be an extra as a zombie in this movie. And I mean, he just absolutely was thrilled with the whole thing. He thought it was great. So we had talked about him taking a few art classes or, effects classes to kind of learn more technique. So he was looking into that. We were talking about maybe starting that soon because he was so nervous about doing it because he was afraid he wouldn't be good enough.
Oh,
And finally we were like, but that's the whole point of going to school, is that you learn. You have to be willing to learn. You have to know that you're not going to start off great. That's the whole point of school.
exactly.
So we were discussing working on that the upcoming year. So that was going to be one of his big projects that he was going to do, was he was going to look into school.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
and then again, it's like you think about that and like all the stuff that he couldn't do
Could
and
have
he'll
shared
never get
with
to
us.
do. Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
moms out here that are in our situation, um, what would you share with them? What advice would you give them? The moms that are going through, haven't come to a place where they can see joy in the small things. They're still
Right.
in grief at that they still in that moment of pain.
I think the thing that I would say is, don't have any expectations of yourself.
Mm.
You owe no one an explanation. Your anger is valid. You are allowed to feel how you feel. And like what I said in the beginning, your grief is going to last as long as your love does, and that's the rest of your life. So don't have any expectation that it's something you have to get through,
Right.
because it just doesn't work that way.
I recently read that when a mother loses a child, she's changed forever. So
Mm-hmm.
the person you used to know, you're no longer that person. And so to your point, don't have expectations on yourself, because you are a different person. Not only are you living with pain, you're living with love of the loss of that son, that daughter, that person that you lost. You're living with that in contagion with the pain. So I
Right.
think it's important that you be patient with you as you go
Grant
through
yourself
it.
grace.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yep. I feel like, because I've talked to so many different moms, and they talk about how you know they couldn't get out of bed for days.
Right.
And I'm like, you know what? That's okay. That's really okay. Because the last thing that you should have to feel is an obligation to anything other than your broken heart.
Yes. Yeah,
So,
I can tell you that, my son wasn't a victim of someone killing him. My son took his own life in front of me. And I share that as we're talking about Christian, to say that moms that are dealing with a broken heart, that are going through, they also need to make sure they get support and help, because the mind can play some really horrible tricks on you. And when you're in that moment of grief and loss, I know for me, I dealt with wanting to be with my son. He was
girl.
gone. So having to be with him meant I had to leave this world as well. And so my husband and I actually went through, okay, let me put the guns up. Let's try to, make it easy for you to get through this process. And so I know a lot of mothers are struggling with the loss of their child and trying to be with them. And I want to encourage them to say that, no, you don't go join your son or your daughter. You be here and live for them. Live throughout what they want to do, like the horror movies. And you have the Facebook page that we're definitely going to put down in the bottom, the Facebook page on finding justice for Christian, but also seeing how beautiful his life was, right? So that impact that he had on the world, we want the other mothers to know that their child had an impact as well. And it's now their job to take that mantle and walk on with it, to make sure that it comes to fruition. And so when I share that, what other initiatives are you fostering, are you championing in the name of Christian?
Well, I'm working with an author on a book about Christian's life and the good that he put out in this world. Um, I am planning on starting a nonprofit in Christian's name, basically a victims advocacy nonprofit where we will help other families with private detectives, second autopsies, even funeral costs if necessary for people who lose a child to violence, and helping them get a proper response. No one should have to go 7 months without their child's murder being investigated. So my plan is to make sure that that never happens to anybody else. I'm actually looking at taking online courses to get certified as a victims advocate, so I can work with a sheriff's department wherever I end up settling, and make sure that, again, no mom walks through that by herself like I was, because that's a hard road to walk by yourself. Not only are you trying to figure out how to even go forward, but you're trying to fight the system that's stacked against you that you have no knowledge of,
Right,
you know?
right.
So I want to be that frontline person for the next mom so that she doesn't have to feel that or do that.
Well, we definitely want to support you in that endeavor. So all the information that you have, if you would share that, we will make sure our viewers have access to it. I know that you do have a Facebook page. So when you get your nonprofit, give me that. And if you need help with starting that nonprofit, let me know, because I do have some resources that I don't mind sharing with you to see how we can get it up and running. Because I think this is something that's needed way back then, but it's good to start now because that's you're championing it. The victim advocacy goes without doubt. No one knows what this process entails until they go through it. And having
Right.
someone to walk you through it is probably worth its weight in gold. And so we definitely want to make sure that we help you get that started. So when you think about Christian, what is your fondest memory of him? If you could name just one, I'm probably sure you're flooded with
Oh gosh.
so many.
I mean, yeah, if you knew Christian, I mean, he was my mini me, honestly. We were thick as thieves, me and him. Um, we went to concerts together, movies together. I mean, I gotta say, I was very blessed and I was very lucky that the night before he was killed, we actually hung out for a few hours. And I would have normally had to run home and make dinner and get ready for work and this, that, and the other. But something said, spend the time with him. And I think that's my greatest joy. That whatever that voice was gave me that. And we ran around for like 3 hours in the rain playing Pokemon and doing raids and 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 just having a good time. So I mean, there's so many fond memories. Him goofing up his graduation speech when he graduated high school. He stood up there in front of everybody and had to give a speech, and he says, well, mostly I just wung it. We all laughed so hard about him saying wung it. Oh,
Oh, that is so
or the
awesome.
time, or the time when something we gave him trouble about for years. One day he's sitting there, and out of nowhere he goes, "Oh, every kiss does begin with K." I can't tell you how much amusement that gave our whole family.
So funny. I just got it. You know what? That is so funny. I just literally, I just got it. The K, the letter K, kiss me.
Right.
And I
It was hilarious. I mean, because it was so out of the blue. We're sitting there. I don't know what we were doing. It literally had nothing to do with jewelry and I don't even think the
Right.
TV was on, and it just hit him like a light bulb.
Oh,
Oh, Christian, he was hilarious. He was hilarious. He could make you laugh no matter what. Oh, he was funny. It's so kind. I can't tell you how many people, and that was probably one of the things that helped get me through too, was all the people that reached out to me that told me how much Christian helped them. You know, all the things that he did to help them, whether it was giving them something to eat or giving them a place to sleep or taking in their dog when they were homeless so that their dog wouldn't, end up
mhm.
at the shelter. He just did stuff like that, you know.
I do. I do. It sounds like our sons had a mutual heart. So they were heartfelt, heartstrong people, and they loved others and they wanted to see people doing well.
Yep.
And I think that's why we also have a kindred spirit because we sound like we raise really good men, really good young men that love people. Um, and I've been doing very hard trying to keep myself composed. But your story is so heartfelt, it's so heart-wrenching. And I want to make sure that I stay very close to you, support you, be there to champion behind you, whatever resources I can have, that I have, that you can have, I would definitely share it with you. But we don't want you to be a stranger. We want to make sure that you are a partner mother with From Grief to Joy as we continue on this journey to get justice for our kids, share the world on the beauty of who they were, what they meant to us, and what happened to them. And my hope is that your son was stabbed, my son was shot, we used a gun. My hope is to rid the world of weapons that will cause violent harm. What I mean by that is because I think there's a place for protection with weapons, but my desire is to make sure whoever is holding the weapon is mentally equipped to do so. And if they're
Mm.
not, we need to find some way to protect them from themselves and others. And I think if we all, as mothers, come together, we can create a voice that will require the people that make the decisions stand up and listen. One of the things you said to me that I've kind of been sharing it everywhere I go is when you have a baby, they give you 6 weeks off, depending on the organization that you work for. When you lose that baby, they give you 3 days to grieve. And that's not fair, nor is that.
Nope.
And so, if that is a cause that you are still a champion, we definitely want to support you on that. I've shared your Facebook page and your name with several folks that I think will help in that cause. And if not, we're going to keep sharing until we find someone that could get behind it and move it on to the next level. You said there's a petition. If you don't mind sharing that petition so we can put that in the notes below so that anybody who wants to sign it, who also wants to be a part of that cause, can join as well. I think it is a common sense clause to me, and
Yes.
it's something that should, without hesitation, be supported.
Yeah, that's a big thing for me. And I didn't mention that earlier, but that's still, yeah, there is the petition that I started. It's on change.org. I'll be glad to share the link with you. But yes, I feel like there should be things in place that it is mandatory that, if you're going to give me 6 weeks of maternity leave, then you better give me 6 weeks at least of bereavement leave, and my job should still be secure. I should not, on top of everything else, worry about whether or not I have a job to go back to,
Correct.
especially if I have other kids to support.
Right.
So
Right. So someone that have a friend, a sister, or a loved one, relative that have lost a child, what would you tell them is the best thing to say to that person to show their support?
literally just, I'm here. and nothing else.
Okay.
I'm here. And be there and sit with them in the uncomfortable silence and sit there and let them cry and sit there and let them scream and sit there and hold their hand and just be there. Don't say, well, they're in a better place, because I swear to you, every time I heard that, I wanted to cause violence to someone.
Yes, yes, I agree with that. You don't know where they are.
And not only that, you don't know people's beliefs, and no mother is going to say that their child is better off anywhere but right there with them.
Exactly.
So that is the worst possible thing you can say to somebody, is they're in a better place. Just say, I'm here, and mean it, and be there. Honestly, just sit in the uncomfortable silence and sit through the tears. That's what my cousin did for 3 days straight. She drove over an hour and a half to come to my house and sit with me just to listen to me cry.
It's beautiful.
And she took me to the tattoo shop the very next day, because my son had a tattoo that he was so excited about that he hadn't had that long. And I went to the tattoo shop and had them give me the exact same tattoo in the exact same place so that his tattoo remained here.
It's amazing. I never thought about that. My son had on his hand, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. He had a half a sleeve. So that may be something I need to look into as well. Because
and I can also share a resource, a link, if somebody's interested. My son was cremated. That's what we believe in.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a place over in the UK that they do a process where they can make tattoo ink with the ashes completely in it. And I have had several tattoos made with his ink.
Okay. Yes, definitely want to put that down as a resource, because I think a lot of mothers would definitely want to have a piece of their baby with them. I know the DNA is there because we gave it to them, but to have an actual piece of them, inked on your arms, you can sit there and look at them. It can give you a sense that they're not gone. It can give you a sense that they're still here, right here with you. I can, yes, please, if you don't mind sharing that.
Nope, it's called Cremation Ink, and they're over in the UK, and I will definitely find the link so you can share it. But it's a lengthy process because it's going all the way over to England, so it takes time, but so worth it. They sent me a full 1 ounce bottle of black ink. They can do colors as well. And so every tattoo that I've gotten since he passed away, I've used his ink with.
Okay.
And
so what about the tattoo artists? Are they opposed to using it? Or they're okay with using it? They don't mind.
Nobody has given me a hard time so far.
Okay. Perfect.
So yeah, I bring my own ink, and I'm like, here you go. Now, if they have to use other colors, then that's okay. But at least the outline, the basic, the black it's all Christian.
Yeah.
So
wow. That's awesome. Ooh.
It's like putting my baby back in my body where he was safe,
Exactly. Where he began, where it all started.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
But so on the outside where you
and some people aren't into tattoos, and that's okay too. That's my way of honoring my son. And there's other ways. There's great cremation jewelry available. I wear this ring. It's a little heart with a tree of life on it, and it's got his ashes in it. And I wear that every day.
Okay.
There's all kinds of options. Man, did I do a lot of exploring on how to keepsake his ashes, that was really important to me, that I didn't want a grave that I had to feel like I had to stay bound to. And I don't know, I guess I'm weird about that. I don't do cemeteries very well. I just wanted to be able to bring him home to me. Mm-hmm. So now I have him. I mean, the backpack with his ashes in it is right in my back seat here. He goes everywhere with me, literally everywhere.
Beautiful. So. Yeah. You have to mourn in your own way. You have to celebrate him in your own way. Nobody could put traditions, rituals on you. You have to do what's best. And as the mother, I think we know best. I think we know best about our child. And so I want to make sure that we constantly are there to support. I love all of the resources that you share with us. I wrote down Cremation Inc., change.org. And then I have the Facebook page. I'm gonna make sure that I go out there and look it up and put some resources below. Kim, I just want to say thank you. I every time I talk to you, I'm encouraged. Every time. I feel
I don't know what I'm doing to help you, because to me, you're the encouraging one. The fact that you're doing this, and it's, I mean, you talk about heart wrenching. To me, your story is so heart wrenching. And I feel like, I think each mother looks at it and goes, I can't imagine it. So even in our own, what we've been through, it's hard to imagine what another mother goes through. And that's why it's so important that the biggest thing that you do is just offer support. Just be there for somebody, you know, be there at 2 o'clock in the morning when they're having a panic attack and they can't breathe, you know?
yes. I agree. Make yourself available. Make yourself available for the people you love. Make yourself available for the people you love. And I say that many times because I don't, I think people say I'm here if you need me, but they don't really mean it.
Right.
And I
Right.
want them to know that we understand your life is still moving on, but we're stuck at a place that if you could
Mhm.
just take a moment and turn and reach back for us, be there for us, eventually we'll be all right. But right, or that's not right. Eventually we will be better. We won't be
Right.
all right because we've lost, to me, like an organ. You've lost an organ when you lose your son. And I just think people need to mean what they say and do what they say,
Yes,
especially
ma'am.
when you're being there to support someone that's grieving.
Yep. Nope. You're exactly right. Look, my cousin, she has been invaluable because she has dragged me forward when I wanted to stay in one spot.
Mm,
She has dragged me forward and said, we're going to find you a little bit of peace for a minute.
yeah. But that's a beautiful cousin. That's a beautiful cousin.
She's amazing.
So that's awesome. Well, I'm not going to hold you any longer. I just want to thank you again for taking the time out, sitting in your car to talk with us. So, Grief to Joy views every Thursday. I'm sorry, I misstated that. Every month, the first Thursday of the month, Grief to Joy will be live. We will feature another mother. Kim Dodd is our guest for today. Amazing story. I mean, she is smiling. She is a radiant sunshine. If you see her posts, you see the love she has for her family, and you see how Christian is still with her. And guys, if you need inspiration, please follow Kim. Kim has a plethora of resources for you all to use to help get through the grieving process. And if you're not going through it personally, but you know someone that is, please share these resources and reach out. We're here to support you as well. We are a mama nation, is what I call us.
That's
We're a
right.
mama nation, and we got your back. Kim, thank you so much again.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Have a good
Bye
day.
bye.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
You too.